Welcome back into another episode of Scurry and the Scrub. He's Scurry. That's Jordan Scurry. I'm Matt DeMarinis. I'm the Scrub. And to help me feel better about my self-esteem being the Scrub, we brought in this straggler, Mike Murakami. Works for Opendorse. And some of you, maybe one or two of you, possibly less, might know him from the Creighton days, running the getting that social media team off the ground, working for the marketing group and everything.
You're gonna have to just start letting me do the intros. Like, I have more pep in my voice when I do it. Like, I could have made him out to sound like Superman there.
I hear you. I wanted to drag him down a little bit for this one.
You should have but like I'll hype it up next time, and then you can drag him down after. Like, So
no, but you need to do the intros from now on for sure.
I'll do the build up so we can build him up before we tear him down.
Yeah.
I feel like that's more effective.
No, I don't like to build him up at all. I like to take him where he's at and then drag him further down below that. So
Matt, I don't know how many more guests. I don't know how many more guests you're gonna have if Matt keeps doing the intros.
I know. I know. That's why I had to step in there. I'm like, let me just nip this in the bud.
Like, hang on a second. They're not. No one else is gonna want to come back on here after this.
Yeah. Wait. Okay.
Is this how they treat everybody? What's going on?
It's a special intro, and Matt, I didn't really realize that you were called the Scrub here, and that would have changed. I would have said yes far earlier than I did if I knew that you were referred to as the Scrub on this podcast.
Did you think I was Scurry?
No, I definitely didn't think you were Scurry.
Scurry.
No, I just don't think you knew the title. I just don't think he was aware of the title.
Oh, okay.
I did confuse the two of you all the time when I was at Creighton. I was like, that's Matt.
Don't worry. It was a 4-year. This is why we have a podcast, because we're like, so many comparisons. We might as well just let it rock.
Yeah, I like how Jordan was defending you at first, and then you basically just said he was me the whole time. I don't know. That probably didn't work out very well for Jordan. But first of all, it's a big week for Mike because his Notre Dame Fighting Irish are getting ready to get stomped again on national television somewhere. I don't know what channel, ESPN probably, whoever watches college football. Are you okay? Are you getting ready for the inevitable, or do you have hope right now? Is there a glimmer left, or what's up?
I think the only thing I can ask is, again, do you ever want other guests on this podcast? Like,
hey, no. So I'm hot. I've been a Notre Dame fan all year long. I don't believe
all year long.
Anybody.
Huh? Okay.
I have. Have I not? Have I not?
I'm just saying, like, no one says it like that, though. Like,
I'm not a diehard. I'm not
all year. I've been a Notre Dame fan all year.
Whatever. I'm an Ian Book fan. I don't believe the BS that people try to tell me that Ian Book couldn't be a backup quarterback in the NFL. I think he could be a great backup quarterback in the NFL. I don't know who's trying to tell me he can't be, but I liked him all year long, and I've been saying Ian Book for Heisman until last game. But Ian Book for Heisman.
Last game was rough. The last time we played Bama, also rough from what I can remember. As the game went on, the memories kind of got a little hazy for a lot of good reasons. But hey, I think we have him right where we want him.
Where's that?
We're the underdogs. No one believes in us. I remember an undersized linebacker that no one believed in, and when given the chance, he was able to record a sack on the last play of the game and got carried off the field. So, Rudy, let's go. Like, it's time for the underdog to dethrone Bama. That's and I Notre Dame all the way. I think this is the year.
Conor McGregor was the underdog against Floyd Mayweather too, and that's kind of how I see it going more like that in terms of how it's going to work out for the Irish.
What
I get it with the Irish. That was good. That was good.
Matt, what semifinal is Oregon playing in? I really want to catch that.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because I knew you were going to, so I was ready for this. Like, does it really matter? Like, does college football have some kind of like prestigious postseason going on here, or is it all basically just like, hey, who are the teams with the most money and the biggest brands that we can put on national television and let play for our trophy? and we'll call them the best. Is that more?
Were you saying that when Oregon was actually good and in the college football playoff, or is this just kind of like a? Okay.
Yeah. Even then, absolutely. This thing's been a sham since the jump, and this year only exposed it further. Like Ohio State, they play like 4 games? How many did they play? They even play a game?
They played 6, I think.
Who did Ohio State
6
play?
and 0.
Who did Ohio State beat to prove that they were one of the top 4 teams in the country? What's the list?
They beat Indiana.
Whew.
Hey, this year that's like a big deal.
It is a big deal. What, they beat them by 7? Okay, let's move on.
People were making that a big deal.
Northwestern, they score 20 points against Northwestern, so that's okay, cool. Did they play Michigan? No. They beat Nebraska. That's a big one, right?
Yeah, man.
I mean, Nebraska's got 5 national championships somewhere in this lifetime, right? Don't they? Someone's lifetime, not mine, but someone's.
I think it'll be a good game between Clemson and Ohio State.
It will be a good game, but that's not the point of a playoff, though. The point of a playoff is to stick the teams that are deserving into a field and let them play. Because sometimes in sports, the best team doesn't always win, right? That's just what I was taught growing up.
So you're talking about an expanded playoff? Yeah,
one where it's not obviously rigged for the haves and against the have-nots. Correct? Yeah. Do you know name a sport where it's like this besides college football? I'll get. And we're on a podcast, so I'll give you as much time as you need. I'll start the clock.
Okay. I'll come back to it.
I don't think you will.
I think no, but Matt, I think what you're the most mad at is that it's really the pandemic didn't allow a real schedule to happen, so there was no real way for teams there was no real way in college football there was going to be an even playing field because of the amount of games being played and the fact that we know college football wants the teams with the big TV contracts, big endorsements, they want them.
Yeah,
and so they were because
it's about ratings.
So so you already knew it was going to be the top 4 teams with the most extra to come with it.
Sure.
And obviously that's why Notre Dame got in. This is what I've been trying to explain this to people. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's why Notre Dame always gets the benefit of the doubt without that little conference championship deal.
Yeah.
That's why they always get the benefit of the doubt when they never play for a conference championship. They're always like, well, they're Notre Dame and they have a big following. Why does that matter on the playing field? Nebraska has a huge following. They should be in the playoff every year, right?
Okay, but they have a huge other problem too. So that's the other part to that outweighs their money. They got so much money and endorsement and whatever. They're so bad, nobody even cares.
So if Nebraska was a 2-loss team, they'd be in the conversation every year because of the following.
Oh yeah, definitely. The same reason Notre Dame is. The same reason.
I know. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's bad. Because it's not on merit. It's on how many people. It's about how many people like you.
I just feel like we knew that about college football.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying this year exposed it further.
Oh yeah, yes, okay.
And I'm just done with it. I'm I don't even need to take you seriously anymore. I'll watch the games for entertainment purposes during the season, but when you're telling me, oh yeah, here's our national champion, I'm just stop talking like that because that's not.
Yeah.
You didn't just crown a national champion. You made a trophy and handed it to the team you thought was
okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'll back that.
So who do you think should be in the college football playoff?
The 16 teams that should play for it, you mean? Or just the 4 that are in? I mean, Ohio State playing, how many games did they play? 6 for real? Is that how many played?
I think they played 6.
Okay, so they're 6-0. They played basically less than half of a legitimate college football season, and they're in the playoff. So that's all based on eye test, which is subjective as anything else that you could possibly give. Basically, a bunch of ADs from power conferences sat around a table and said, they look pretty good, and that's how they got in. Even though they didn't look that good. Did they look that good? In 6 games, when did Ohio State look like they could beat Bama and Clemson? When? Name a game. But they were ooh, yikes.
Admittedly, I didn't watch every Ohio State game.
Yeah, I think I only watched the Indiana game just because it was the first noon and it was their first game, and I was kind of hyped for that.
Yeah, the one they almost gave away against Indiana, right? And Indiana's good because why? Why are they good? Because they beat Penn State on a lucky play.
I was
who
gonna
ended up
say,
being terrible.
I was gonna say because there ain't as many teams to watch.
Yeah, for real.
Not as many active teams.
Yeah, exactly. Indiana's a top 10 team because we killed the
by
field.
default.
Yeah, exactly. So that's their best. That's their marquee win is Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, in normal years, if we're talking about perception, that's only good maybe in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
That baseball a couple years ago, but like, so Ohio State's in with 6 games. That's cute. Coastal Carolina played what 11? Went 11-0, right? Which
Wait,
I
who
mean,
are they playing? What bowl are they in?
Yeah, well,
Carolina?
Yeah, they lost their bowl game last night, so now everybody's going to say, "Oh, see, they lost. They didn't deserve to be in," which is like, okay.
Yeah.
But then you got a couple years ago where UCF goes undefeated and beats Auburn, and you're like,
the national champs.
But only like who voted for them? Only one person, right? Didn't they only get one vote?
UCF national champs.
Yeah, they only got one vote, and it was like a Husker writer because Scott Frost coached him. So like, you know what I mean? The whole thing's rigged. It's weird. It's not even like it's not legitimate. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who I think should be in. I think more teams should be in and let them play for it. That's what a playoff does.
I mean, it sounds like you have the blueprint, and you just need to put pen to paper. And
every sport has the blueprint since the beginning of time. Have a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Take the best teams from the regular season, put them in a field, let them play.
They have a 14 playoff.
Ohio State played 6 games, dude. That's just not going to cut it. Like you can't.
6-0.
Against what?
In a weird year,
the Big
too.
Ten.
I mean, didn't like Nebraska march down the field twice against them? Like Nebraska's offense. Remember Nebraska's offense? That team marched down the field like twice.
First drive of the game?
Yeah. Like it was Yeah.
I think a lot of people would be in favor of an expanded playoff. It would be
not nearly enough. And I would think it would be better if the 15 morons who were in that office thought there should be an expanded playoff and the rest of the country said boo and only want 4. I'd be happier with that scenario because it's like, okay, well, at least they're being sensible.
That is kind of strange because it would be like way more money. You could make all these bowl games like all parts of the playoff.
Yeah.
You can make
bowl games make bowl games matter again, right?
Yeah.
Because what are bowl games? They're essentially like exhibitions with sponsors, correct?
Yeah.
That's all they are.
Now,
that's all.
Yeah.
Especially
now.
So if you have an expanded playoff and you name it whatever the hell, who wants to sponsor it, and you have some meaning to it, more eyeballs, more fans, then you make your money off your endorsements off the bowl game that matters because it's a playoff game. Like, the NCAA tournament's been doing this for decades. It's literally simple stuff. College football's just like, nah. For some reason.
It must be because they already got the money.
Yeah, it's clearly because they already got the money. And that's why they're just trying to keep it amongst themselves. That's why you don't. That's why you see Coastal Carolina.
That's why they'd be mad. They'd be like, shh, stop. We just want our 4 games, make our money, and go home.
Mm-hmm,
okay? 16 games, Matt. 16 games, Matt, is too many.
Okay? That's why Iowa State's losing to Louisiana. Oklahoma State's like, they didn't lose to Louisiana. They got housed at home by Louisiana with fans in the stadium too. So, and they were always ahead of Coastal Carolina. 2 lost Iowa State, just never had to sweat Coastal Carolina at all. Undefeated team from nowhere. You know what I mean? It's just like BS.
Yeah. But football too, it's that any given Saturday, any given Sunday. That's why
That's
why they should. That's why they
should. Yeah. Wasn't Ohio State the best team in the land for a minute until Iowa hung 55 on them? Remember that? Like every day, you gotta play.
What if Ohio State beats Clemson?
That doesn't matter anymore.
Okay.
It doesn't matter anymore. That's what they did.
Okay.
That's what they do. That's how college football does it. They take this team that clearly doesn't belong in based on merit, and then they feed that narrative to that team for however many days they have to prepare. Yep. And that team comes out like gangbusters, like us against the world mentality, and kicks the crap out of someone they probably wouldn't have beaten on a normal week of prep. And they're like, see, they were the best the whole time. The ends don't justify the means here, ever. College football loves to do that.
That's a good take. That's a good take.
It happens all the time. They're like, oh, yeah, the team that's doubted always comes out, plays like their hair's on fire, proves the world wrong, and they're like, see, we belong the whole time. I'm like,
And then and also if you think of the teams that are always the good, like the Clemson and Alabamas, what do they always have at late in the season? Is momentum. So yeah, you stop them for 3 weeks.
Yeah,
definitely a little bit easier to hype some dudes up, and it's not. Yeah.
Like Clemson just beat Notre Dame, right? Really good team. We all agree. Deserving of their spot in the playoff that should be 16 instead of 4, right? They beat them like it's nobody's business. No, Ohio State, had to play with Northwestern. Like Northwestern's okay, but they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. That was a grinder of a game, and Clemson looked like world beaters. But what happened after that? Ohio State, yeah, you can come into, you won your Big Ten title, you played your 6 games, you can come in and play for this college football title now. Oh, but by the way, here's Clemson ranking you 11th, and Dabo thinking you don't belong in the field. So feed that to your players every day, and then go beat Clemson, and you can show the world. And it's like, no, you didn't show them anything. You didn't belong in there. They were right the whole time. You just beat them. Who cares?
It'll be fun to see the rematch, third game of the season. Clemson, Notre Dame, and I think we'll see a similar result in the title game. I think we'll see a similar result to the first time Notre Dame played. Yeah. It'll be a close game. Maybe a double OT game again.
Maybe a little Trevor Lawrence, another COVID case, or what do you think?
Hopefully not. I mean, I don't wish COVID on anyone.
Wait. So you're not. Wait. So clearly you're not rooting for Notre Dame then. If you think Trevor Lawrence is going to be the quarterback and Notre Dame's going to win, that's counterintuitive.
Trevor Lawrence is pretty good. Trevor Lawrence is a pretty good player.
Yeah, man.
He's
the real deal.
That's gonna be a tough out.
Yeah. Solid take. How was your guys' Christmas? How was your guys' Christmas?
Hey, as good as it can be. Immediate family was safe. We were all good. Had a nice little time. Can't complain.
Did you get any cool swag?
I got this. I mean,
I
got stuff to stay warm. I got stuff. I was kind of practical this year. Parents got me stuff to stay warm. That's really it.
Nice. Mike, what about you? Did you get the daughter some cool stuff?
Yeah, she got a 2-year-old daughter, and so she's running all over my house. And so we tried to confine that with like trampoline, one of those like little kid trampolines with like the bars that you hang on to and you just like bounce by yourself. Yeah. It's great. A lot of energy wasted on that trampoline so far, and hopefully a lot more.
Is it loud?
It's really not at all.
Oh, there you go.
It's only loud when she sometimes falls off, but she's okay. We make sure she's okay.
Sounds like you tell her that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're like you're fine.
You have to convince her. Yeah, it's one of those convincing you're okays. It's like black elbows like black and blue. It's like no, you're okay. You're okay.
You're okay. Here, have a marshmallow. You're fine. You're good.
I actually have a funny story about that, like from back in the day. Like this is from like mean Catholic school teacher days. This is what adults tell children when they're hurt to try to like make them stop crying and screaming. So like I think I was in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, one of the two. So I'm a little dude, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff hurts when you fall, okay? And you cry because it hurts. That's just you're not tough enough to deal with that yet, okay?
Yeah.
So we were coming down the stairs. I think we had like a 2-story or 3-story school or whatever. So we were coming down the stairs. I don't know where we were going, but I was like running down the stairs as stupid children do. And I tripped on one of like the steps, like 7 high, and fell the other 6. Like landed real hard on the surface. Yeah. And it hurt really bad. And I started crying. So the teacher comes up to me, and this horrible woman walks up and like whispers in my ear, and she's like, she starts out all soothing, like she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" Like rubbing my back and everything. She's like, "Matt, are you crying because you're hurt, or are you crying because you're embarrassed?" And I was like, "What the?"
Yeah, I hate when they call you out like.
I know. I was like, I just cleared 6 steps on my face, woman. I'm crying because it hurt like hell. Did you see that?
No, but she clearly thought you were doing it to like be cool and like land it. And so, but since you didn't land it, I mean, I get where she was coming from. I just would have been more upset that she called me out.
I was
because I would have. I was the type to cry for both. I would have cried for both.
Really?
I would. Oh, definitely. I would have cried because I was like, damn. everybody's
saw
gonna
that.
make fun of me about this now. Like everybody seen me clear 6
Yeah.
steps like an idiot, and I didn't even land it, and now I'm crying because I'm hurt. And they're going so, and then I would just have built up. So I just would have got mad. She called it out.
Yeah, that was probably my first F word right there. I was like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, just face planted 6 steps high. How do you think I'm not hurt? Like,
Dropping
yeah.
F-bombs in Catholic school.
I mean,
Sounds
that's
like
where
right?
that's where you learn them. That's where you in Catholic school you learn how to drink. How
Yeah,
to curse.
actually, I
So-
learned. Did you know I learned this summer from a nice Catholic woman across the street that who I like would mow her lawn and stuff this summer, whatever. I did not know where the F word came from until she told me how she learned it in Catholic school for
Yeah.
unlawful carnal knowledge. I had no idea. I never knew that.
Well, here's I mean, in Catholic
Betty,
school,
Betty's her name. Old Betty. She knows. She put me on game.
in Catholic school, they take you as like a youngin, where you're just like a sponge with nothing in there,
Yeah,
and they tell you all the things that are bad, and you're like, I want to try some of these things. So that's where you learn them. You learn them by learning not to do them, and then you revolt against them. So
that's
how bad are these things really? Let's test it out, And then you go out into the world, and you cuss around your parents, and they're like, "What in the? Did you just say?" Like, oops, that's not good. You know what I mean? That's how it happens.
So it's like Catholic school and the internet are the plagues.
Yeah.
You writing this down for your daughter? No Catholic school, no internet.
Here's the thing. I am Catholic, and despite my last name, I'm my mother's maiden name is Sullivan, so I come from an Irish Catholic family. My wife is Catholic. My family is very Catholic. So I'm now just scared. I'm terrified.
Oh, yeah.
This podcast has done nothing but absolutely terrify me for the future. So thank you very much.
That's
And
why
insult
we're
me.
here, Scurry
And
in the
insult
Scrub. That's
me.
a good plug. We should put that on our tagline.
Yeah.
Scurry in the
Come get-
Scrub.
Well, if it makes
Get
you
terrified.
if it makes you feel any better,
And
I'm not done insulting you. So if it makes you feel better,
I'm well aware.
well, I'm glad we have you on though. Kinda. I mean, I felt like we could have chosen a better guest for this, but whatever.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you on that.
He texted me like 3 times. I had to be like, no, like, come on. I promise you, it'll be a good guest. And I'd be like, yeah, I just don't want to talk to him now. I was like, well, I mean, come on, that's the point. Like, he was like, so, I mean, here we are.
We were a little inside baseball for people. We were on the phone. I was on the phone with Mike talking about like being on what we were going to talk about. And literally, like, he's getting mean mugged from his wife the whole time because he's supposed to be leaving to go meet with family. He blamed that shit on me. He blamed it on me, even though he was the one that said, "Yeah, I'm free to talk right now." He said, "I'm free to talk." So I called him and we started talking, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta be somewhere." Why would you?
Here's the thing, though. Like,
why would you tell me you're free if that's what's going on?
Matt, I had to leave in like an hour, Matt, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm free to talk for like a couple minutes," but I should have known, Matt, that any conversation with you is likely to take up like my entire day. So I should have known going into it, like, oh no, Matt, I'm not free because I have a thing in 3 hours.
Here's where his credibility gets shot too, because the truth behind that is he might have had an hour to talk, but he spent the first 45 minutes of it putting me on hold so he could go talk to his air conditioner repairman or whatever the hell story he made up to get me off the phone. So
again, whatever it takes.
Flew like 90% of that time not talking to me. So again, he lies.
Married men with kids come up with the best scapegoats in the world.
They do.
They could make needing to go to CVS sound so urgent that you would be like, yo, just call me when you back. Let me know you safe. Like, I learned early on. You don't have hour conversations with your friends with kids. That's why you got to schedule a podcast with them.
That's right. Exactly.
That's why I'm in my car right now.
Men literally have to set professional conversations to have an excuse to talk, to shoot the shit. Like, we had to do this podcast, or else Mike's wife was going to be up his ass. Like, that's crazy.
It's true.
He just said it's true. I hope she listens.
On recording. Yeah, I do too. I can't.
I'm so glad. Get him so bad. I can't. I hope he films it. Like, I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, this is.
I actually might send it to her, just this timestamp right here.
She's gonna enjoy that one.
Check this out. Okay, so now that we've
she blocks both of you. You're both getting blocked.
Now that we've humbled him good and well, let's actually get into
reality.
what we want to talk about. So, like, name, image, and likeness is a big topic of conversation right now, and it's getting more momentum than ever because it's actually close to being implemented from an NCAA standpoint. I think this summer had a lot to do with it, but I also think just general common sense had a lot to do with it. Like athletes are, in terms of like time spent doing what they need to do to get right athletically, academically, they're not really getting a whole lot back for what they give in terms of the value. So that's kind of like how it was born. But the reason we got Mike on here is because he kind of knows the inner workings of all that. Like he's got a lot of experience, and I want to let him tell you about it. Just jumping on in. So if you could, not that you're getting like a job interview here. There's no perks with this at all. It's just airtime. Like, what's your background in marketing of athletes specifically, and what have you like learned about it coming out of it now in all your years that you didn't know going in terms of how much value a college athlete, even one that maybe not is like on ESPN Sports Center all the time, has in terms of like what they can do with their following on social media and other platforms like that?
Yeah. So the background really, I mean, kind of similar to Jordan. I was really interested in journalism in college, and so I took a lot of media writing classes. And one of my first jobs out of college was writing for a website that covered high school sports in Minnesota, particularly hockey, which is obviously a huge sport, high school hockey in Minnesota. And I realized a couple things. One is that I love sports. I love watching athletes grow, like both athletically, but then also just kind of their brand, and seeing some of those kids go play, you know, at D1 schools and get drafted by NHL teams. And so I loved watching that journey. The other thing that I learned, no offense to Matt, was that I didn't want to be a journalist. I was like, you know what? I love covering sports. I love like being in that realm, but I was like, I don't know if journalism is right for me. And ironically, we spoke about my wife, who I'm going to make sure never listens to this because of the recent admission. But
Because you've disclosed on your own. Yeah.
Because I'll blame you for whatever, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And she's obviously she's from Omaha, so I knew that I had to move to Omaha, and I was looking for jobs in sports, and looked at like USHL teams, the Lancers, the Lincoln Stars, tried to get something going, and I ended up getting a job at Creighton University and working in their athletic department. And so it was I never really pictured myself working for a D1 athletic department. It just kind of happened. And that first year was the last year in the Valley. So all of a sudden, like, we go from like a really strong mid-major to arguably the best basketball conference in the country, and going from a conference tournament where a bunch of us packed in a car and drove to St. Louis to hopping on a charter flight with the team to New York City. Like, that's a big change. And so it was really fun to be a part of that. And it was really fun to, just be involved in the athletic department while that whole thing was happening. And my role when I first got to Creighton was working in the ticket office. That was obviously Doug McDermott's junior and senior year, and there was not a whole lot we had to do to move basketball tickets. I promise to Rass or to Sarv, if anyone hears this or watches it, we definitely did work, but we didn't have to do a lot of work to fill that place. But like I think that also kind of led to like, all right, well, we're not having to like really spend a lot of time figuring out ways to move tickets. Like, we are sold out. Like, we don't have to do anything. We really have to figure out how many people we're actually going to let into the building for fear of like the fire code being called on us. Like, that was honestly like what the biggest thing was. So that opened up some time, and I started tinkering around with like a Creighton ticketing social media account and posting to that, and that slowly transitioned into doing some social media for team accounts, and slowly but surely that kind of turned into my role. So I spent over 5.5 years in the athletic department at Creighton with amazing people, watching amazing student athletes. Like I started with, the Doug McDermott days, and I ended, within there was, a top 10 team like that. Jordan, probably like that game against Wisconsin.
Smallest I've ever felt in my life.
Holy cow.
That was my freshman year too, right? And that's the first time I felt it sold out. I've never felt so small my whole life.
The electric is it doesn't even do it justice what that building was like, especially at the end when the two boys from Omaha just closed it out. I mean, that was wild. And also around that same time is like a meteoric rise of the volleyball team, and so like watching and like a really good men's soccer program, and like all these teams, like it was so cool to watch. Like, not just the fact that we were no longer in a quote unquote mid-major of the Missouri Valley, but like how good all the teams were doing. And so that's where it got fun for me, kind of utilizing the success of the athletes and highlighting their successes on social media and all of these new tools that were coming out at the time, and like trying to figure out, okay, like, how can we best showcase Creighton and why you need to come be a part of this, like for recruits. Like it was geared towards recruits, it was geared towards the fans, it was geared towards alumni, just kind of going along for the ride of everything that happened. I would say I think back to like some of like the most popular posts, social media posts. Like, it's not like an article where you spend a lot of time like crafting together this article and really hoping that you have a really good lead into a really good, everything. I mean, it's a moment. And for a while it was only 140 character moment. And, like I think I remember like just like slamming my fingers down a bunch of times when Marcus Foster hit that three against Xavier in the semis. Like I didn't know what to say. But that moment wasn't me. It wasn't Creighton. It was Marcus who did that. Like, and so that's where you can kind of see like athletes drive everything.
Mm-hmm.
I knew from the first time I really started, like, I can provide an update on the score. No one cares. No one really gives a crap what the score of the game is. They can figure that out. What they want to see is they want to see the highlights. They want to see the athlete driven moments that are out on social media that they can interact with, and they can call back to and be like, oh, this was a great play. This was an awesome dunk. This, those are the moments that that I knew and I could see. And compliance wise, there's only so much really you can do with student athletes. But just making sure that we were highlighting everything that they were doing. That was my focus when I was at Creighton. So marketing wise, I mean, we really just knew that like we had successful programs driven by successful and talented athletes. And my role was trying to get as much content out into social media so that like, hey, this is awesome. Like, you're going to want to be at the next game to see it. That was kind of like what was driving me. And the more and more I was there, the more and more you just saw it grow and grow and grow.
What did you like? I think you brought up an interesting point, because I can remember when kind of before you got your, you put your imprint on it, were like the Creighton team accounts were kind of just essentially like what you said. They were kind of just scoreboards for people on game day, right? Like you'd get a score update, a player stat update, and that, a time left update, and that would kind of be what you'd see on throughout a game on a team account, and then you realize, like, I guess my question is, like, when you see that versus when you see the engagement after just a really cool play that has no context on it in terms of like the tweet that's written. It's just like is a highlight, and then everything's there for you. The score's there, the scoreboard's there, the play is there. What type of engagement did you get? The difference in just a regular score update with nothing there to look at versus when, someone throws an alley-oop and, it makes it like 22-20 or whatever it was, like when the score is kind of secondary to the awesome play that happened.
Yeah, it was obviously night and day. I mean, I don't have the exact totals. It's been a long time, but I think, the first time that I got a Twitter account was maybe in 2010, and it was still relatively new at the time. So I started at Creighton in 2012. And I think I kind of took over the social media accounts maybe 2.5 years in. So still, like, Twitter was barely 5 years old, if it was. And I think people were just kind of trying to figure out, what is this platform going to be in, and what content do I want to see on it? It certainly did a great job providing score updates, and people would engage with it. But I think there was also so many different tools that they get. Like, you can open up an ESPN app and figure out what the score of a game is. There's live stats that you can pull up and find the score. And nowadays, like, you can just open up Twitter, and sometimes you'll see the score update at like the top of your phone. So featuring content, that was a game changer. And there was a lot of work done. Not Matt, you'll be happy. It was not done by me. It was done by others in the athletic department to
Least surprising thing you said this whole time.
I understand that. To get me the tools to, post a highlight, and to get content or get photos or whatever I could get, to, put a little bit more content than just words. Whenever we did that, we got a lot more engagement. A lot more people were retweeting or liking or quote tweeting, whatever it was, commenting on it. And I think the more, I always wanted to be professional, but also still kind of playful, to the point where fans could feel like they could interact with the accounts. And I think it was more inviting that way, which is kind of the whole point of social media. So that is definitely a lot more engagements when it came to having content. The game changer, and it's probably a good segue into some other points here, but like, I could tweet out a graphic of what the attendance was at a Creighton game, and after the game or something like that, I could tweet out the final score. I could tweet out shout out to the amazing fans, and then Coach Matt can hop up and, with no graphic, just tweet something out like thanking the fans, and it would outperform anything that I put out. Like, and it was like, well, what the heck? Like, this is
So that's actually that's a good point and a good segue kind of into some of the stuff Matt and I were talking about earlier, just about how now with the name and likeness, like, things changing and that, like, all going forward. How do you think that'll have an effect where it's like players who are going into schools with such big social media followings now, and even like some teammates who I played with, like, going into Creighton, like, how do you think schools, like, how would that be different from your position? Like, thinking of like having a kid come in with like already a huge following now, like if you were at Creighton, I'm saying, but like, how would that change? How do you think that changes now, just with the name and likeness, like, being so relevant and kids like caring so much about it? Players.
Well, I think there's a couple things to that. Like, when Kobe came to Creighton, like, we were well aware of how many followers he had, and so if he was going to post about, like, jerseys or apparel, equipment, whatever it was. Like we didn't like go out of our way to like provide anything necessarily, but like we didn't step in his way to prevent him from sharing content. Now, like, and I didn't have a tool like Opendorse at the time where I could,
probably.
yeah, no doubt. And that is a shameless plug, but like, I didn't have a tool like Opendorse where I could load up content for him to use. So now, like, schools are utilizing companies like Opendorse to load up content for these players to post. And what I found, my kind of towards the end of my time at Creighton was, I could post something on any team account and it would do pretty well. An athlete post and it would outperform it every time. It would, and that I do have numbers. Like we at Opendorse have found that athlete driven content can outperform a team account like at 6 times on average. And that's insane numbers. So the goal is now, like, and some schools that we work with, I've seen this, and Creighton honestly is one of them with the social media team that they have there, where they're very conscious about, the content that they want to keep for themselves, but also sharing a lot of content with the athletes so that they can post and they can drive the conversation. And that's what's going to help build their brand when it comes to like a big recruit choosing whether or not they want to go to a certain school or not. I should have looked up his name. Matt and I talked about this when we were, what was the guy's name? He opted to go play G League instead of
well, RJ Hampton went overseas.
No. Who is the kid this year? Jalen.
They like built a G League team. For him
yeah. I know exactly. Hold on, I was just talking about this kid because they just had the first G League media day. Like they had a whole G League media day basically because of him.
But here's the thing: like this is almost, this is almost like proving
Jalen
my
Green.
point.
Yeah,
Jalen Green.
We had to like a lottery pick. Yeah,
we had to search for that name. Why? Because like he didn't go to a Duke. He didn't go to a Kentucky.
Exactly. It's such a good point.
You knew who Zion was because he went to Duke.
Exactly. And I think to that point now, and you say, because when I thought the initial question, right, like how is this going to change, like the name and likeness thing? I think the way it changes it is now schools just have to have in marketing department, like what you were saying you were doing at Creighton, you have to now have a pitch for that number one kid. Like say the number one kid comes in, it's like, at least this is what I would know. I would be like, so what Instagram, like what is your media department going to send me that I can post on my Instagram weekly that this school isn't? Like what's better about what you guys can help me post versus like the next. So I think that's how I could see it changing, and like basically what I was saying, your job changing. So that is crazy to think about how I didn't know the numbers about it being like 6 times greater than the actual school's account. Because most of the time you see the schools have the larger followings, but the athletes at the time.
So Mike, maybe you can help clear some of this up, because like there is a little bit of like they're athletes at that school, and it is kind of like a cohesive thing in terms of brand building. But am I mistaken? Like, I don't know if the NCAA is going to allow that close of a linkage. Are they going to allow athletes to promote team-based things to make money off of that, or is that where we get into the gray area of what the NCAA is going to kind of try to regulate?
That's a good question.
This is a really good opportunity to put out the disclaimer that I am not an NIL expert, and I have
perfectly fine
perused a lot of the legislation and a lot of the things that have been, but I am our CEO Blake Lawrence, I'll give him a plug. I would rate him an expert, but I do think that I have some answers, and so to my knowledge,
that's who we should have had on the podcast.
That's who you should have gotten.
I'm joking. Just joking.
That's who you'll get the cease and desist letter from.
I told you I picked the lowest fruit, so I was like, let's just do this. Just there for the taking.
It's like It's like fishing for sunfish off the dock. This is what you did.
No, man, come on.
Hey,
You still have the insight. You still got the insight.
No. So okay. The NCAA is absolutely fine with college athletes posting photos from their games, and that content can be provided through Opendorse or Dropbox or whatever it is. Athletes cannot post that content like in an ad, and they cannot use school marks in an ad.
Okay.
So like Jordan, if he was going to post something for Creighton, he couldn't wear the Creighton C logo. He could wear a blue shirt, a plain blue shirt. That's fine.
Yeah.
There's
like
nothing against that. But
or like that.
So they can brand build, but they can't use
the other.
They can't use the school and their brand together to make money in like a commercialization type of post.
It's just got to be their own brand, right? It's just got to be
yeah.
So like a good example, Club Trillion, right?
Yeah, Tyson Tate.
They sold like tens of thousands of dollars worth of apparel with Club Trillion on it.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get a dime from it. And I think that I don't remember if like he got like some kickback, but then he had to pay it back.
Oh, okay. So speaking of a story like that, that's my question is, so like the Kyle Guy thing, is that legal now? Do you know about that?
You'll have to refresh my memory on that one.
So Kyle Guy got married while he was in college, right? And he had a wedding registry. And all the boosters from Virginia bought him gifts like for his wedding registry, and the university made him return them.
Because they were impromotional benefits.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That probably doesn't fall into this, does it? Like,
I don't think it does.
Yeah.
I don't. I think that would still be an impermissible benefit.
Right.
But
the only reason I even bring that one up, I didn't mean to cut the Tyson Tate story.
No, you're good.
Like I think just in separating it, because that is separating the player and like your brand and the school. But I'm thinking in a setting like that, the wedding should be able to separate. But I mean, I guess how that is.
Yeah, because I think it's got to be. I think it's got to be like a business proposition for the booster and the athlete, right? Because there are going to be. I mean, that's just what we're talking about here with the name, image, and likeness. We're talking about basically athletes linking up with a booster's cause, whether it's a business or whatever, and kind of like generating ad revenue for that business through the player's own brand, right? Is that what we're?
That's a good way to.
That's kind of like the linkage there, right?
Yeah.
So like with Kyle Guy, it's like that's his wedding isn't a business proposition.
Isn't a part of his business. Yeah.
The booster's giving him something for that. Isn't like a trading of service. It's like it's just he's at Virginia, and their boosters are like, hey, we love you. Here's some stuff that the NCAA doesn't want to give you through this third channel of your wedding. Yeah. Like but in this post NIL world, if Kyle Guy is like, let's say he's trying to raise money for his wedding, whatever it is, like that doesn't have to be like on the surface. He's just got an intrinsic motivation to get money. He can use his brand to work with those boosters to promote their businesses to get money for himself through that commercialization that he can then 100%. Use to do whatever the hell he wants to do with it. Wedding.
As long as he's not getting anything from Virginia for this, like Virginia cannot be the one that says, hey, John Smith Auto wants you to, so get in touch with John Smith. Like Virginia cannot do that. And Virginia cannot, like Kyle Guy cannot wear anything Virginia when he's doing whatever he's doing for John Smith Auto. And like, so, but what we envision is there could be a world very soon where John Smith Auto reaches out to Kyle Guy and says, hey, like, we want to work together. This is what we want you to do. And this is, what we would pay you to do that. And as long as like no other compliance rules are being broken, like that is a acceptable transition that Kyle can do now. So that is, the difference. That's the world that I think that we're moving towards. Like going back to the Club Trillion, like that is a situation where he could have marketed that himself. Like it just Club Trillion. No, that was Ohio State, right?
Yeah,
I thought so.
No Ohio State marks, like no red, no, well, it could be red. That doesn't matter, but like no logo. Like he could have made money off of that. And he's Club Trillion. Like he's not making a lot of impact on this. In fact, that's kind of the whole point of Club Trillion.
That was the whole point, right? Yeah.
But like he had a brand, and like now he's really popular. Like he's got a blog, doesn't he? He's got like podcasts. He's got apparel that he can sell and finally make money off of. That whole thing could have happened back in back in school. Like we'll see, like even if you're not a star on the court, like maybe bench mob is gonna like bench mob culture is gonna take over. Again, that dude from DePaul.
Yeah. Rec Specs.
Like he's a brand
on the t-shirt.
Like
puts Rec Specs on the t-shirt. Boom.
And honestly, like he might be the most. Like he might have the highest brand on DePaul.
Yeah,
he doesn't play.
Well, it's like even Jordan. If Jordan let's say in a hypothetical world, Jordan's cool. Well, no. Like if like his whole career doesn't have to be based on.
No, man. To kind of like spin it to tell the story is like, so you remember Davion, Mike, right?
Of course.
Now in Kentucky. We were roommates freshman year, and obviously freshman year we're both fresh on campus, and we're sitting there and like. We would just play 2K, like you're just getting to know someone, mainly just play 2K, it's your teammate, like we're in dorms, we're trying to get used to whatever. And so obviously it's after practice, a lot of times you're loopy minded and all that, and we're just trying to like play, we're freshmen, eager, like, man, we got to make sure like we're in the gym the most, blah, 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 all this. And we just get to shooting the shit, and we're thinking, we're like, yo, we just need to make sure we like have a lack of all distractions this year to have a good year. And like he said it, and I was like, lack of all. It's like load, lack of all distractions, load. And we had t-shirts and everything made that said load, like all LOAD, like all lack of all distractions underneath, D-Mints 1, J-Scurry 5 on the back of that. And the second it said like the D-Mints 1 and the J-Scurry, we got the text from Preston. He was like, can't do it. Don't post it. Don't put it nowhere. Nothing. Like you can't even do it yet. Wait till like after college or something. And we were like, man, like that was our freshman year. So like that's how we were kind of introduced to it. And like Davion, super business minded guy, and I was trying to be creative with it too, and I was super on it. And so we kind of that's how we kind of got into it. Like, and that was our early education of like what name and likeness would be about in our 4 years, and that's why we're still I'm still so curious about all this stuff with it and how guys can kind of do what we were trying to do.
That would have been completely permissible under the proposed legislation, which hopefully gets passed next month and goes into effect in July. So you were close. You were close to close, hopefully
like a couple years.
But that's it, right? Like that's and going back to like playing 2K, like what about like a player like streaming to Twitch?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's now
it's going to be right. Yeah.
As long as he's not wearing, if you're sitting in your dorm at Creighton, as long as you're not wearing a Creighton logo thing and, you're just playing 2K, you can get money off of ads from that or whatever.
That was the YouTube thing. That
Twitch
was the
streaming
YouTube
is just
thing.
like, it's like your own, that's your own platform to do whatever. Yeah. Like sell yourself, talk about whatever's going on in the world, like game. And then people can just like throw money at you, literally right while the stream's going. Like, as long as you're not breaking any of those little guidelines where it's like, all right, is there a logo here or is you wearing team apparel there? Like, as long as you're just doing it like in basic player A, create a player mode, essentially, you're good to earn whatever you can earn in that time.
Because there was I think it was a kicker for some school.
It was Central. Was it USF? Right?
Was it USF?
Yeah.
And they had the kicker who, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember it being he couldn't continue his YouTube channel that he was making bank off of because he was doing a day-to-day, and his day-to-day was in the football facility and all that. So because that's what people wanted to see, but that's their stuff. So he couldn't make money off that, right? That's what it was.
Which brings me to my next question, like, because I want, before Mike talks about this, like, because I think it's going to relate. You remember looking at trying to sell tickets in the Doug era, right? In his second half of his career. Why? What, in your opinion, like just in your experience of doing this, are the hurdles stopping athletes from just like being able to generate whatever revenue their name could generate, linked with the school? If it is or not, like why is that a no when that's the appeal for some people? Like why is that the school is going to make money off their name, right? Like if Creighton puts Doug somewhere, anywhere, name it, that's going to generate. I mean, let's look at it in a good way. What are the Pink Out days, right? Creighton raises money for a cause, correct? But they do it by what? Selling jerseys.
Jersey auctions.
Jersey auctions, correct? Like, so it goes to, it's charitable. So that's the wiggle around for everything in this world, apparently. It's for a good cause, so I'm not knocking it. But at the same time, that's player-driven branding, is it not? So why can't, if Doug wants to go out and make bank for 40, like just think about it. These players are playing their careers that can end like that. An injury away it changes a lot. Like you don't always come back from those the same player with the same future outlook in terms of playing overseas or playing in the league. So the years are fleeting, the career is fleeting, right? So why can't play? What's the holdup with just saying, hey, look, Zion and Duke, Creighton and Doug, Page and UConn, it's like it can sync together and allow an athlete to make money doing X, Y, Z. But for some reason, it's not cool when it's athlete driven to make money in a UConn jersey, but the UConn school can like take Paige, slap her all over this, a billboard for season tickets. We talked about the Pink Out game with Doug. Why is it okay, just from an NCAA standpoint, just a moral standpoint, for the NCAA to market athletes to make money and institutions, but not for the players to do it using the institutions? Why is that not just make total sense in harmony? Like it syncs together, right? It should.
But I think what you're kind of getting to is like why this conversation's happening in the first place. Like right now, athletes can't make money, period. They can't make money until the day that they graduate or the day that they renounce their amateurism. And there can be long debates about what is amateurism nowadays, because it certainly is not what amateurism was when this whole thing started up.
The pandemic exposed some things, didn't that?
Sure did.
I mean, well, a lot of things were exposed in 2020, and I think that one of the biggest things was like the power of the athlete voice, and being able to shut down games, or like athletes, I think, like it or not, have a lot of power when it comes to sports. And so I think like credit to the NCAA for taking a look and saying, we need to figure some things out. We need to make some changes. Just as how I don't think, any legislation, like when it first gets passed in a lot of situations, it's not going to be that way forever. There, who knows? There could be a day down the road where school logos are permissible. But right now, I think a lot of times, if an athlete's going to be paid by someone, they're going to get paid for them. Like if John Smith Otto is paying Doug McDermott, like they're paying Doug McDermott. But if Doug McDermott's wearing a Creighton logo, then does some of that money need to go to Creighton, and then Doug doesn't get as much? Like,
well, I
know what I mean?
I think to that, that's a good point, just because I think it's just silly. And to what Matt was saying, I think it's silly. Like, we all know if you go to Omaha right now, like, and I mean, I guess obviously because it's going to, if it's not already going to be retired, you see a number 3 Creighton jersey. It's because it was bought because of Doug McDermott, right? Like, but Doug never saw any of that money, right?
Didn't have his name on it or anything.
Not that so that's my thing. It's like, at other schools, it's different maybe sometimes too. Like, whatever, maybe it's not a player, like, because there's been multiple like players to wear a certain number, but if it's as simple as putting a last name, like putting a McDermott at the end of it, making sure he sees some money on the back end of it, like, why is that so difficult? If so many are selling and it's such a big like attraction, why is like, I just hope something can be kind of done about that. Like you're saying, like if the schools, like the schools, just that's a obvious school is using players, and players could be benefiting.
I think it'll be really interesting to see how it progresses. Like, I don't think that like jerseys, that's always kind of been like something that people focus on is like, okay, well, how come I remember like, you know, how could Texas A&M sell so many number 2 jerseys during the Johnny Manziel days, and Johnny got none of that, though he was doing the Johnny football celebration. Like, it will be interesting to see how all that changes. But now, like, what Johnny Manziel could do is you would probably be a really successful NIL athlete in College Station at the time. Like, he would have been able to, and now it comes down to like, you know, autograph jerseys or autograph appearances or, you know, speaking appearances, you know, just go somewhere and be somewhere for a company outing or whatever and make an easy payday just by being there because you're a college athlete. You know, the cool, or like the thing Matt and I were talking about is, you know, just if fans want like video recorded messages like sent to them from their favorite players, or you know, whatever it is, like there's not going to be a big limit outside of things that are obviously not compliant. You know, you're not going to see like college athletes in alcohol ads, but you're going to see them be able to make money now, which is, it's a really good step in the right direction, I think.
I think we've tackled the what and beat it to death. Let's talk about the how for a little bit. What is Opendorse, and like how did you get into it? Let's get it. What is Opendorse? How did you guys come to partner with Creighton, and I think Nebraska too, right? Am I not mistaken? Those are the two that you are partnered with so far.
We have 14.
Okay, but those are the ones in state, right?
We have a lot. The only 2 in state, right now are Nebraska and Creighton.
Okay. So what is Opendorse? How did you guys partner with Creighton and Nebraska? And how are you going to fill those holes that we've been talking about now for the last few minutes, like where the school can use the player, but the player can't use the school? How is Opendorse going to fill that gap for the player in order to allow them to make money off of basically what the school's been doing for decades?
Sure. All right, here we go. Opendorse.
That was a really smooth. That was a smooth segue by you. You're a natural talker.
I mean, I have the face for radio, the voice for print, and I got out of print pretty quickly. So, Opendorse is an athlete marketing platform that maximizes the endorsement value for athletes.
Are you reading this right now, or are you coming off?
No, he's definitely done this before. That was good. He's done this before. Wait, no, he's done this before. This is good. We're getting the whole professional pitch. This is awesome. Wait,
he's like selling us right now.
All right.
Here's the thing. Like, every Monday morning, we all hop on we call it stand up because we used to stand up. At one point, it was just in one room. Now we're all kind of gathering in a conference or like in a meeting area. And of course, now in the pandemic, we're just hopping on a Zoom call. But every Monday morning during the stand-up, we say what we are, our core values. We say it every single week.
That sounds cringy. So I'm glad you guys don't have to be in the office.
Here's the thing, like,
it's like a marketing. It's like a marketing cult, right?
It's definitely it's like they're our father.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first time I did it, I was like, what is this, like church? But I love the fact that we actually do it, because every Monday we're like reminded of why we do what we do. And
cool.
So that really helps us, like, to to remind ourselves, like, yeah, like, our vision is to help every athlete, not just the star quarterback on a Power 5 football team, but also, volleyball players at Creighton, and men's soccer players at Louisville, and like everyone like that. We're here to help every athlete. So it was founded in 2012 by a pair of Nebraska football players. That this might be the point where a lot of Creighton fans tune out, but they, and maybe not some, maybe some will stick on.
That happened a long time ago, so just keep going.
No doubt, probably when I was first introduced. And they're two very successful players. One of which had to end his career early because of concussions. The other one was a kicker in the NFL for a little bit before kind of diving into Opendorse full time. But they were good friends with Prince Mukamara, who got drafted by the Giants. And Prince really wanted to like beef up his social media following, and at the time they were running a social media agency where they were helping companies with like some of their marketing materials. Instead of just like a PDF that they would post on social media, they would maybe like put a little design or some graphics into it to beef it up a little bit. So Prince came to them and said, hey, like, help beef my social media up. And Blake and Adi, who are our founders, Blake Lawrence and Adi Kunalik, both of them with their agency, they would spend time putting together graphics and sending those graphics over to Prince, whether it was like text or email or Dropbox or like DM'd. They would try and get this content to Prince, and Prince wouldn't post it. And so they finally reached out to Prince and said, hey, why aren't you posting this content? And he said, look, like, I'm trying to make an NFL roster right now. Like, I need to memorize playbooks. I need to make sure I'm at every meeting and in the gym and at practice on time. Like, it's a busy life. And he was like, I'm not an expert at it. I don't even know how to work a Dropbox link. And so Blake and Adi built Opendorse to make it so athletes could connect their social media channels and be able to publish with the tap of a button. The posts already built for them, so that like I said, all they had to do it was one tap publishing, and it would go out in their social channels. Prince loved it. He showed his agent. His agent loved it, and got a few more NFL players like Golden Tate and Demaryius Thomas on the platform, and they all loved it. And their agent showed the NFLPA, and the NFLPA said, hey, we want to use Opendorse as our like social media activation partner to help it, so that anyone who wants to do a deal with NFL players for social media could use Opendorse to make that post as easy as possible. So think about the like DeAndre Ayton tweeted out like on draft week about playing COD, and it was basically like he had just pasted the instructions of what to tweet in the tweet and hit send. And I think it was like Markelle Fultz when he got drafted. Same thing, like on Instagram, he had posted something about like a watch company, and like it was like so excited to be drafted by, and like in parentheses it was like team, and like can't wait to get to, and in parentheses it was like city. And so like, but like, and while we laugh, like we also, it's not the athlete's fault. Like it's like maybe the busiest week of their life in the draft, and they're obviously going to say yes to try and make money off of that moment. But they're not social media marketers necessarily. Like not every athlete is a social media genius. They're an athlete, and as with anything, they might need some coaching. So like the power of this platform was that Tide could load up a post with everything filled out exactly how they want it to go out. They could time it, and the player, all the player would have to do is hit a green button. It posts. They get a check in the mail from Opendorse for tapping a green button on their phone. So a couple years down the line, Amir Abdullah, a running back out of Nebraska, comes to Blake and Adi and says, "How much are my tweets worth?" And they kind of do an audit of his, social media channels, and they say, "Well, your tweets are probably worth $1,000 per post." And I think any athlete after that is going to say what Amir said, which is, "How do I make more money off of that post?"
Yeah.
And Blake and Adi were like, "Okay, well, post more." I've probably said it just naturally, but we call them social media channels because think of it as a channel. It's not an account. It is a channel that you're posting content to. So when an advertiser wants to put something out, what channel are they going to go to for television? They're going to go to ABC, NBC, ESPN. They're not going to go to like a channel that, I'm not going to say a channel for fear of like insulting anyone who like loves that particular channel, but like you want to go to like the channel with the highest following, the highest engagement, the most viewers. Same thing applies for social media. They want to go, like, advertisers want to post content where there's the most following and the most engagement. So they said, "Amir, post more." And he said, "Okay, what should I post?" So based on that audit, they found that, maybe 40% of his following was from University of Nebraska fans. So if Amir posts 10 times a week, you should probably post 40% Nebraska content, right? Like, to play to that following. So who has Nebraska content? The University of Nebraska has Nebraska content. So Blake and Adi go to the University of Nebraska and they say, "Hey, look, we are going to, or Amir Abdullah will post content that you send to him." Now, remember what I said at the time. Amir's posts were worth $1,000 per post, but Amir wants to grow his following, so he'll post that content for free. So all Nebraska has to do is say, "Okay, yeah, we'll send Amir content." And they say, "Yeah, we'll do that. We don't have to pay him every single time he posts." And no, Amir will post, like, he has the opportunity to say no, but he'll post what he wants to post whenever, and you don't have to pay that rate every single time he posts. So they're like, "Yeah, heck yeah, sign us up for that." We go to Amir Abdullah and we say, "Hey, Nebraska's going to give you content." Amir's like, "Great. How much do I have to pay for that content?" And we say, that's free. So athletes never have to pay to have Opendorse. Like, they never have to pay to get content from their school. That's always free. Now the schools, that's where our partnerships come in with schools, where we have those partnerships that allow the schools to use the Opendorse platform to send that content to the athlete. But again, they're not having to pay that, per tweet, per post fee for those athletes. So from that business, we kind of expanded. At the time, like, Opendorse, like, was only focusing on alumni because we were a little nervous about compliance rules and the use of the platform with amateur athletes, until we got the okay from Oliver Luck at the time, who said, "Yeah, this isn't an impermissible benefit to give athletes content at school. Like, it's not impermissible for me to give a Creighton men's basketball player photos from the game that they played in. That's not impermissible." So from there, like, that's how this grew. Like, for a few years, college properties were using our platform to send content to those athletes for them to post. Now, obviously, the change happens, right? Where NIL is going to be a big thing, and that is where we see the ability to use Opendorse to help athletes continue to build their brand. Like, that's what they were doing. That's what schools were helping. The Griffin brothers from UCF, they had a great story, and they had the content sent to them through Opendorse to help build that brand on social media and celebrate the moments where they're drafted and all their successes on the NFL field. That's the similar path that a lot of schools are going to take now. They're going to utilize Opendorse to send that content to help those athletes build their brand, so that the moment, like CD Lamb at Oklahoma is a really good example. Obviously in his rookie season for Dallas right now. Prior to that was at Oklahoma. He was posting content sent to him through Opendorse after they beat Texas in the Red River rivalry. And it was one of the highest engaging posts that week, maybe that month, for student athletes, which is the power of athlete-driven media. All of a sudden, he is now in the NFL draft. He gets drafted by Dallas. Some of his first posts are going out, and he's hitting that same green button that he hit when he was at Oklahoma, but now he's hitting that green button for partners like Panini, the trading card company, or EA Sports. He's hitting that green button, and now instead of just like hitting that green button and it posts and it's an Oklahoma piece, now he's hitting money. It's an ad, and now he's getting money. So it like some of his first posts out of or like after he got drafted were sent from Opendorse, and it was the same product that he was using when he was at Oklahoma, but now instead of like building that brand, now it came with a dollar sign, and now like after that he got checks in the mail from those posts. And that's like the story now is you start at a school, you post, you build your brand, you get drafted, and you start making money. Now that's that, and that's the current world. But very soon it could be you go to a school, you start making money.
Mm-hmm.
So now like that process just got moved ahead, and I think it's going to be really exciting. So like where it started was like when that news came out, we were really excited. We still do a lot of work with professional athletes, posting on social media, executing name, image, and likeness deals essentially, through brands, through companies that just want athletes, that recognize the average of 6-time engagement when an athlete posts compared to when they post. We've been doing that since we were founded. Now we were excited because all of a sudden it means however many student athletes are now eligible for those types of deals. So we were pumped up, but then we started thinking about, okay, we've talked about this, like when you go to school and you sign with that university and you start building your brand, now there's dollar signs behind it earlier than it used to be. So now it comes down to like, how can we build a product that can educate student athletes on what they should be doing on social media? Jordan probably knows this better than anyone, and that's like at the beginning of every year, and I think every semester, there's an all student athlete meeting where there's a breakdown of the do's and the do nots, and definitely a section on social media with do's and do nots, and mostly do nots. What
I broke a lot of the time. Compliance and I had a very rocky relationship in my time at Creighton. I got a lot of texts from my good people in the compliance about my posting. But hey,
it was never me. But what our education looks at is like, what are the do's? Like, what should you be doing to build your brand? So there's an education piece. We also look at like, all right, what have you done so far? Like, what are you using social media for? Like, are you using it for the betterment of your brand, or are you using it to retweet SpongeBob memes?
I thought you brought up a really good point just about like the Amir Abdullah, the audit, like in knowing his. I think that would be, I don't know if you do that with like all guys and like all like the big followings and whatnot, but that would have been I'm just thinking, and as an athlete, like for all the guys like us, like I make the joke about like freshman year, like not knowing what to post and whatever, but it's kind of true. A lot of guys come in, and all I knew freshman year is we had this meeting, right? Like you're saying, like the do's and don'ts. But then I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna post like guys who are successful other college athletes. Like I'm just gonna post like that. That's my mindset, right? But I think what you're saying is so important for a lot of guys to get, where it's like, if you know like what can make you money and what can build your brand, it's not about just this is the pathway. It's like this is what the pathway is for you, which is something I wish I could have learned a lot earlier.
Yeah. So
let me ask a question based on that a little bit too, because here's where I think like corporate marketing can interfere with just not trying to think of the word I'm trying to use here.
Corporate. Yes.
Like we're like they
1000%.
can't. You guys can't be yourselves on your personal accounts because you have to make sure you're protecting your brand. So this summer was, for people who wanted to listen, pretty informative. Okay. But it also, I felt like, was a movement that was athlete driven. And I think you saw that filter into the corporate realm where schools, like university entities, major corporations were all kind of like forced. Now that might be the wrong word, but there was a lot. The Washington football team. The movement basically forced you to speak up or get out of this world essentially. Because if you're not going to stand up for this type of stuff, you stand for nothing. That essentially. So
that's what FedEx said. FedEx said.
Yeah. So my thing is like, what if in situations like that, in the name, image, and likeness world, how welcoming is Opendorse and companies like that, that are brand building companies, for athletes to get on whatever pedestal they got, whether it's social media, whether it's in the street, and speak up for something that matters, but that might not cause always a positive ripple effect in terms of their brand building. Like, where does Opendorse stand as on the middle ground of that?
Well, I think the answer to that would be like, okay, if there's an athlete speaking on behalf of social justice or against racism, that shouldn't hurt their brand, and the people that it would hurt, or I guess like the people that would be offended by it, like that's the issue. So we saw some social justice posts go out through the platform over the past year, and I think it's some of them were sent through.
How does that work?
Yeah, well, like, so again, like if there's a team event, there were so many team demonstrations or team rallies or gatherings, whatever, and if the content team is there taking photos, like they would get them to the athletes using Opendorse. I mean,
so you're not so Opendorse isn't basically linking up with universities to create a bunch of robots, right? Like they're going to let the athletes be themselves, build their own brands, and make money basically through that that intermediate party, which is companies like Opendorse, correct? Am I assuming that right?
Yeah. So like, there are a couple things that Opendorse can help with, right? Like there are hey, we can make sure that a post goes out exactly how the sender, whether that's the university or a brand, wants it to go out. And it's not roboticizing. Is that a verb? Did I just make that word up?
I get it, so I'll allow it.
It's not.
If you want to market that for your own,
I'm going to start a company. It's not making robots. Like it's coaching, right? Like it's and a lot of the times, like any of those posts that get created by senders are editable by the athletes, so they can make sure that anything going out on their account is always in their own voice and nothing goes out on their account without their approval and all that types. But then there's also hey, we're just going to give you a folder of content and you can choose what you want to do with it. So some of those that had a folder sent to them from the team event, whether it was a march or whatever they did, they could do nothing with it. They could download every single photo and post a photo a day. Whatever. I think it, part of it is finding out what is going to motivate and what an athlete is passionate about. Like you don't want to be inauthentic on social media. Certainly.
That's
like
what
you
I was
want
looking
to,
for. Yeah, authenticity.
you want to make sure that the person that, we always say the faces are what slow the scroll on social. You can follow brands, you can follow team accounts, but you're definitely going to stop when you see a person posting like that. It goes back to, again, what social media was actually created to do. The brands and we kind of muck it up a little bit. But like when I go on social, I want to see what my friends from college are posting about. I want to see what my family's posting about. Like that's what I follow a lot of brand and team accounts, and they put out some awesome content. But really what I go onto social is to see like what my friends are doing. And so that's I think, there's no limit really to who can utilize Opendorse in that way. We have schools that have I think UCF has the mayor signed up. The mayor of Orlando is on the platform. I know a couple schools have like prominent media people. So I don't know, Matt, maybe you need to ask Creighton to get you signed up on Opendorse.
Well, hold up though. We joke about that, and I'm probably not qualified. However, for a guy like Jordan sitting here, like who's in the post part of his career, or I guess he's at the part of his career where he's trying to make a living. Where Creighton isn't like providing the room and board and all that kind of stuff. Like, how does a player like Jordan attack the post career college days through brand building? You know what I mean? Like through brand building. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? What are you doing? Are you there? What's going on?
My phone was my phone was dying. Sorry.
Oh, well, is it dying? Is it still dying?
It's getting close.
Okay. Are you gonna survive the rest of this conversation?
I hate to wrap it. Well, again, Matt, it's kind of whatever I need to do to get off the phone with you. We'll figure this out.
To that point with you. It's okay.
It's
okay.
It's gotten to the point. I might have to hold it.
Don't worry. He's asking questions about me now. It's the
how do former players like Jordan, brand build in their post, college careers? Like, it doesn't, because what you've said so far, it makes it sound like it doesn't stop once the eligibility is gone. It almost is the first step in it in a lot of ways.
Well, like Jordan probably picked up a lot of followers that are Creighton fans during his time at Creighton. And so there are a lot of schools like that use alumni and continue to provide them with content and send them content. A lot of the focus is justifiably and it's going to be on current student athletes, but I would recommend alumni to reach out to their schools and say, hey, like what can I do to help? Like, whether that's getting signed up like for Opendorse and getting access to media. Like I know that I got a free trial of Opendorse like my last year at Creighton. So I was able to utilize the platform a little bit. One of the things that I utilized was the like Infinity Coaches Charity Challenge, Coaches Charity Challenge, and getting content to recent grads like Jahans, like Ethan Raggi, like Zierden, and getting them to post content to for Coach Mack and for that Coaches Charity Challenge. And I think I also even created like the similar pieces of content, but like at the time we weren't using Opendorse. Do you remember that?
I remember that period because we weren't using Opendorse, but it was the first time we had gotten templates of what we they asked us, they were like, you don't have to do it, completely optional, but they were like, this is the tweet to help Coach Mack. Like, please post it just like this. And it was like, it showed, like it was the first time we had pictures like with it. Like they sent us pictures and a post, and it was like,
Yep.
yeah. And it was the first, and so that was really cool.
So that like had a couple of reasons like why I didn't use current student athletes was one, I got that trial like in the middle of the season, so I didn't really want to like disrupt you guys.
Yeah.
And so I just sent those posts to John McHugh to send to you guys.
To us, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, again, you know, whatever I can, you know, pass off to. But like that's I used Opendorse for the alumni portion of it. And I would, you know, I would do that with current student athletes now. Is getting them those pieces of content and that caption to like help certain causes, but like that content did really, really well on social. Like we advanced Coach Mack to like the semifinals that year.
Yeah, I remember.
So
let me ask you this then. Is there a way for guys, so say, because I know it's just for guys on the team now, and obviously I can't really go back into it, right? Like, I don't think there's any way I can get Opendorse now.
Wow, you sounded really depressed when you said it like that.
Yeah, because I was like,
you definitely can, Jordan, but
I could.
Can't be back on that
team. I was trying. That was kind of like a begging voice for him to give me his free trial. That he, you know,
Matt absolutely can't. But Jordan, you're an athlete, man. Like
and so
you never have to pay for Opendorse.
So okay, great. And so that's my question. So guys can always, even if say you, because Creighton has so many guys play pro overseas, like so it would be great for that in particular. But even if you didn't, say I just went on to go into sports journalism now, I could still tap into some of the basketball pictures and all that, like even if I wasn't playing pro now.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know everything about the account that Creighton has currently. I know that a lot of the content on there is for the current athletes.
Yeah.
But
that's what I mean. I just don't think, because there wouldn't have been, because Opendorse they have their own team of like their photos are all unique to the company, right?
No, so like
or their
what Creighton's doing is like Creighton's uploading the photos that their photographers take during games, or
okay.
Whether it's you know, like internal, like the internal staff, their photos, or if they hire a photographer for a game. So like the same photos that you got during your time, like if you had reached, like, did you ever reach out to Rob or McHugh for
after it got especially after they got really good with it my junior year, and Wilbur just started sending them all to us.
100%. So like that is now like what Opendorse could be used for, is to like just make it so they can dump all those photos in a folder, and like they could be on your phone 5 minutes after a game.
That's awesome.
So like that's kind of like the progression that we're going towards now. I would say like if you want to get going, like, you know, reach out, say, hey, I want to get access to my photos and post about it. Like I would send Raggy like a good luck Creighton post. With a clip from like the Villanova game before we played Villanova. Like, so that's how I would do it. Like, so
that makes sense.
I'm glad you told me that, because now I'm gonna stop retweeting that stuff, because it felt like like, oh man, Ethan's tapped in. Like, no, he's not really tapped in.
Or like when Toby would post that dunk from at Nebraska.
He still does. He still does. Like,
I know he does
every month.
I know he does. Like, well, yeah, that's that.
Man, Toby could make like 6 figures on that dunk right there. Like
I think I've seen that dunk video more times than any dunk video in any Creighton everything. Also, was my road roommate.
I have to take responsibility for that.
Shout out Heggs, but that was.
Hey, I got one last thing to pick your brain about before we can send you back inside and see if you still have a marriage to go home to.
Unlikely at this point.
We have spent a lot of time on this. I just want to know, like, just from your experience in working with Opendorse and seeing athlete engagement through marketing at Creighton, both you know, on social media and ticket office sort of thing. What's the what's the earning potential of all athletes? Like I'm talking, if it's Skylar Heinrich in soccer, who's a stud in women's soccer, if it's like a Jaylee Winters type or a Keely Davis type in volleyball, if it's a Jalen, I remember having conversations with the marketing team last year, like, yo, you guys should slap Jalen Agnew on like every billboard around the corner because you got a WNBA player here and you don't realize it. Like, and then she went to the WNBA. Like, and then, you know, the men's basketball team and almost like takes care of itself because that's like the big one. Like those guys don't have to do too much on the court to be popular. So that's like almost an easy question to answer. But like, what's the earning potential of men's basketball player, women's basketball player who's really good, a volleyball player who's an All-American, a soccer player who's basically a threat to score a goal every time they touch it? You know, like what's the earning potential of an athlete like that at Creighton? Especially in like an Omaha market that you would think is a small market, but it's bigger for a Creighton or a Nebraska or a UNO because there isn't really like a tug of war with a professional athlete for that revenue basically. Sorry, that was a big question, but I figure it's all kind of.
I think I followed you. No, like a lot of it kind of comes down to like, and it's a really safe answer, right? Like there is no limit to what they could earn because a lot of these things will come down to what they're willing to do. Like if they're like, hey, I'll only do like Instagram story posts. Like, okay, well, you're limiting your earning potential based on that. Like where you could get more if you do an in-person appearance or if you do an autograph session or if you sign this basketball or, you know, if you're opening up all of your social media channels, like that is, you know, that expands your earning potential. The market, certainly where you're in, kind of, you touched on that. I think the less competition you have, the better. And the more companies that are in your area that are willing to spend money on athlete marketing, because they understand the value, the 6x value that we talked about at the very beginning of this, the better chance that you have. You know, like I said, we've been doing NIL deals, essentially social NIL deals, since for almost 10 years now. So the data that we have on it is like, hey, an athlete with this many followers, you know, we take a lot of things into account, like number of followers, number of impressions, number of engagements, the engagement rate, engagements to impressions. You know, all of these things are kind of taken into account. And you know, I would say like I do have some. I am now actually reading from something, but like we kind of did an analysis back in May. So the Twitter and Instagram follower numbers and the earning potential numbers in general are from back in May. But of the student athletes for this season, the student athlete with the highest earning potential was Paige Buchers.
Paige Beckers, dude. Jesus, really?
Paige Beckers.
How did you butcher that name? She's like the girl.
Matt, I was on a roll right there. I did a slip.
Man.
We've been on the phone for 3 hours. What do you want me to do?
It's like you guys heard of this Michael Jordan guy? Like he's really good.
Not as good as LeBron, but Paige. So we
had
Paige,
sir. I love
we had the potential. I just said that.
I can't wait. No, wait. We'll have you back on that.
Roll time.
We're gonna have a whole MJ versus LeBron episode. Don't worry. We'll have you back. Continue.
Can't wait.
Continue.
Yeah, roll tide.
I had to do that because I knew Matt would hate it. But Paige's potential earning, like we had it at $670,000
per post,
like, in total. Like that. Okay, so that is what. Like based on her follower total, based on her engagement, like like Trevor Lawrence was at 454,000. Like these are potential earning numbers based on their followers, their impressions, their reach. It's what we've seen.
So Paige out-earns basically the number one pick in the NFL draft without even playing the game, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Based on it's similar to like maybe Zion would have been higher than Paige or would have been higher than another potential number one draft pick in the NFL. when he was a freshman, like just because of how he had built his brand.
Mhm.
Now what that doesn't mean is that Paige is going to get a check for $670,000.
Right.
Like it is potential earnings, like based on her social statistics or the stats that we have from her compared to other professional athletes with those similar, like that is the potential earnings. Like that's what we've seen. So
have you done one for Creighton at all that you could talk about, or is that still not information you can share? Or
I don't know if so with our NIL readiness program, part of it is like that education piece and a social ranking and analysis. So they definitely could have some information on how valuable their tweets are. Now, a couple things like, yes, that's earning potential. Like I have the potential to earn $670,000, but it doesn't mean I will. Part of that is going to come down to like what I'm willing to do to get to that point. How much I'm willing to like. It's athletes can't assume if this legislation gets passed on day one they're going to start making money. They're going to have to work for it. Like they're going to have a channel that's worth putting advertisements on, and they're going to have to be
then it becomes a slippery slope, because then it's like you're competing with other athletes who also want to market the same brands and
100%.
companies that you want. And then also kind of what Matt was touching on earlier, you lose, like, how much of you are you willing to give up now? Like if some company comes and is like, okay, if you post this, but you can't post any pictures about this, and this while you're posting for us, are you willing to do that? Because it's like, I don't know if I'm willing to stop posting pictures like with my dog. If a company is like, oh no, I want you, you know what I mean? Like, but on a crazier scale, like there's things that are going to be like that.
So I mean, it's there's not really a limit, right? Like that's a really, really high number, and I don't know if she will make that amount of money in social media endorsements. But I will say, like, you do see a lot of athletes nowadays putting aside their salary and just living off of sponsorships. So like the thought process of making a lot of money off of sponsored posts, off of name, image, and likeness and advertising, that's not out of the realm of possibility. And like, think back to Caitlin Ohashi from UCLA and that routine, that gymnast routine, just going viral. Like that would have been worth a lot. That had a lot of NIL value. That engagement and her following grew because of that. Like, so the point of that too is that it's not just going to be football players, men's basketball players, and women's basketball players. Like, Matt, you might know this name, Haley Cruz.
Yeah, she's like the TikTok softball for Oregon, right?
Yep. So the potential earnings here was 117 grand. Like, so, but again, it's potential. Like, at no point are we saying like these are what they're going to make. We're saying like based on the stats that we have seen off of almost a decade in the business of NIL, like this is what the value of posts can get you to. So is
Paige help? I'm wondering, like, is Paige helped out by the fact that, I don't know, there's not a professional team competing for her, or she's not competing with professional athletes in her market, like whatever that Connecticut market is, like from stores to however it reaches. I'm sure there's some intersectionality with the New York market and that East Coast thing too, so it's probably tougher, but like just zoning back in on like Nebraska, like for Husker athletes, for Creighton athletes, for UNO athletes, if they get involved with that, like, because there's not, Husker football is like the thing, Creighton basketball is like the thing, volleyball is a volleyball state, like Creighton and Nebraska both have big followings, like the College World Series, all that type of stuff, like the event town that it is there a lot of potential for athletes in Omaha, Lincoln, the major cities in Nebraska to to capitalize on what they can do in college at those respective schools more so than, say, like a Texas would, competing with like the Dallas Cowboys, Houston Rockets, like all those professional teams that are in Texas, like, or California or Florida. Like, is it different for players in states that don't have to compete with professional athletes to get like commercial opportunities, if you will?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be easier. I mean, the less if a company wants to reach an audience, every advertising, it comes down to target audience, right? Like, I mean, so if you have a good following in that target audience, you have a very good chance of making money off of that. You have a good chance of being the social channel that an advertiser wants to publish on. So, if you want to target basketball fans in Omaha, like, yes, like a lot of people might like LeBron, but I have no clue. Like, maybe more basketball fans follow Doug McDermott in Omaha than they follow LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe,
yeah,
or
No,
if they don't, if more people do follow LeBron than Doug in Omaha that are basketball fans, I can probably, go to Doug and get that post out. I might not be able to, like, budgetary get it with LeBron.
Right.
Like, but
it might be expensive.
But like, that's what we're talking about. And then, like, so I think, right now the best thing that student athletes can do is to gain followers in the target audience that advertisers are going to want to. And there's no way of knowing necessarily, but the easiest way to gain followers is to put good content on your channels. It's the same thing with the television. The easiest way to gain followers or viewers is to put out good content. So that is the same thing that needs to apply. So I would agree. I think if I'm a men's basketball player and the choices come down to, a Duke or a Kentucky or a Creighton, I think that, yes, like, there's obvious benefit to going to Duke. Like, going back to a point at the very beginning, I don't think that we'll see too many more student athletes say, I'm going to forego a year at Duke or at Kentucky or at Creighton to go play in the G League, because that is a year that I could
be brand that comes with.
Yes. Zion became Zion. My wife knows about Zion Williamson because he played at Duke, and Duke was on TV, and that was like must-watch basketball. So that, like, but we don't watch a whole lot of G League in this house. So Jalen Green, I think that's I respect what he did, because he said, I need to go make money now. And I get that. But now you can do that and gain more audience by going to a school. And so I think that it helps some programs that maybe were just kind of on the cusp, like a Creighton, say, hey, we're going to invest.
Kind of like what I was thinking, because I think a lot of the argument would be, this is basically the end of parity in sports or in college sports. And I'm like, well, hang on a minute, because if it's about the market, there's a lot of schools that are maybe like trying as hard as they can, pinching pennies here and there to compete with bigger schools right now, just for recruits and whatnot, that probably would have an easier time in a post NIL world, because they're not like, just Nebraska and Creighton are two examples in this state. There isn't a professional team that those athletes will be competing with. Like, just in the Big East alone, look at like Page at UConn, or James Bouknight. Like, there's not a professional athlete in that market that they're competing with. So when they're the star, they're literally on the biggest stage. They're the star. They're the most marketable sports figure, like a Providence athlete, like schools that you wouldn't normally think are appealing to the conversation when compared to a blue blood might now be, because they have a national television following with the FS1 contract with the Big East, plus no competition from a professional athlete for those dollars in the market that they're competing with. Like, so almost the earning potential gets a little bit higher, and that narrative that it might be it might hurt smaller schools isn't necessarily true.
And you have schools that are now investing in tools like Opendorse to help athletes build their brand. So I know it's part of recruiting pitches. I haven't sat in on one. I guess I don't know for a fact that it is, but I do know that that's a focus now for schools, is to say, hey, you come here, you're going to build your brand, and we're going to help you build your brand XYZ. And I, in no way, shape, or form will Opendorse ever take credit for recruits or anything like that. But you've seen some good recruiting news happen at Nebraska and at Creighton recently. And a large part of that, I think, is because they're able to show that they're investing time to help them grow. Like, Coach Mack and his player development is still, in my opinion, underrated. And what he's been able to do in his time at Creighton is unreal. And the fact that, like, you have Tyshawn now in a great position to do well. You have the highest recruiting class ever ready to come in. And you have the biggest player of the year currently, by the way, in Omaha right now. So I think what he's able to show on the court, that speaks for itself. They're also able to now say, look, we now have tools that are going to be able to help you build your brand off the court. And you put that together, and it's pretty powerful. That's so. And Nebraska just recently got their first 5-star recruit. A lot of that has to do with family ties. A lot of that has to do with Fred Hoiberg being a very, very good coach. But they also have the tools in place that are going to help build brands. So it's going to, I think the ability to help build brands is going to play a massive, massive role in recruiting. And that's the exciting part. I'm getting excited talking about it, just because it's going to be so cool to see what student athletes are going to be able to do, and the great content that schools have been able to produce. Like you, Jordan, like you said, the content ramped it up when Creighton put an emphasis on content creators.
Yeah.
That is what we're going to now see at other schools. They're going to invest more in content creators to get that content not just out on their own pages, but also in the hands of their athletes, which will help them build their brand, which will help maximize their endorsement value.
No, it's going to be cool.
And that
has to be. I'm just thinking, I'm putting myself in the mind of a recruit now, being recruited by these schools, because you got to think, how cool is that now that if you're one of these top guys, or even if you're just have any schools, right? You're just now it's a decision. You're I like the way this school said they were going to market me better. And again, it's all word of mouth, but it's still another component to recruiting that becomes a thought in the athlete's mind. So I think that's very cool.
Well, I just think one of the things that was probably, Nebraska maybe had this back when they were building their football dynasty. And I think Creighton has certainly tried to sell it with the basketball program, is you have star potential in a small family knit community or whatever.
Yep.
That's been the appeal. So now you add a dollar sign in place of that S. You have star potential in a family-based community. So you don't have to deal with a lot of noise like you would in a New York or a Boston or a Los Angeles. And you can still now, on top of the fact of the attention that you would get from your stardom, be able to earn money off your own name while you're here. So I think that's only gonna, that enhances it. I can't even, that's why we brought you on, because you could tell me in terms of literal numbers what that does to enhance it. But I can't imagine from a recruiting standpoint that's not going to be a major appeal for programs that have a large fan base in a small knit community where there isn't a competition for their marketing services. Like that's
that's a good point too, because it's not only exciting for the athlete now, but like that builds up like the smaller schools that are like the shit where they are like, so it's gonna make those.
I mean, it also helps and the economy around the town. Like think about businesses that are like looking for just ways to amplify their message. Like think about like small businesses that are going to come out of this pandemic struggling and trying to make trying to build back up. Like you could just say, hey, I can throw some cash at an athlete real quick, a college athlete like a Marcus Zagorowski or a Mitch Ballack, and all they got to do is say these words in a tweet, hit that green button like Mike's talking about. Like
it's like my local business is about to shut down. Can I get a tweet from one of these guys? And then boom. Yeah, like it's a great point.
I don't know why it took us till 2020 to make all these common sense implementations, but damn it, they better be getting put in place. So, Mike, man, I appreciate you. I know we give you a hard time, or I do. Sorry. Jordan was so long. Best behavior.
If you couldn't tell, we both didn't have anything to do today. We don't have kids and lives, so we just kind of talk to each other.
Yeah.
Matt, I'll say what I told Matt was I'm willing to hop on any podcast for Jordan Scurry.
Oh man, I appreciate you.
I thought that it was just Matt, and I was like, no, I can't do that. But any time that I can help out, Jordan or any athletes that I saw during my time at Creighton,
awesome.
Always happy to do that.
We'll be in touch.
But I won't be.
That's why we put Jordan's name in the title and hid mine on purpose. So like behind the nicknames, we're like
that's where it got me. Like
that's a little trick we play on people.
Confuses people too.
Like, oh, Matt's on. Man, I want.
No, thanks guys for having me on. Happy to talk about it. Happy to come back and talk more about it too. So hopefully there'll be some good news from the NCAA. See what legislation gets passed. It's kind of hopefully going to be an exciting time.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Coming on, man.
Roll Tide,
guys. Okay. All right. Okay.
Honestly, we're just gonna wrap the whole episode here though, so you can hang tight.
All right.
But hopefully people, enjoyed your insights and got a better picture of what this means in terms of, because I know there's like a lot when you talk about paying college athletes, they're like, the first thing is like, well, they already get the scholarship and all the perks and all that, and especially when you hear stories from old athletes back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s or whatever, like, yeah, they do have more perks than you, but you still didn't get enough either, so it's not like there isn't still a ways to go there. It's not like your situation was right either. We just can't fix that because there's no time machines in this world. So
and there was just no internet, so we just didn't talk about it because everyone just your generation, they were just like, oh no, we're just gonna
you could only yell at each other, and then the coaches were like, hey, shut up, and then you had to
There also wasn't like every
you couldn't go on like a Twitter rant and be like, oh, why is this a problem? You just literally had to say it to a teammate, and he'd be like, stop being soft, bro. We're all going through this. I don't wish I played in that era.
National TV.
I don't wish I played in that era.
For sure. All right, everybody. This is episode 2. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back at you next Sunday with just some more unpredictable awesomeness, hopefully. So we'll let Jordan do the intro next time too.
Yeah, we'll do it. I'll do the intro and outro. But shout out to the people. Shout out to the people for tuning in. We appreciate you. If anybody made it through this whole episode, I know we're gonna clip it up. Hey, but if anybody made it through this whole episode, I'll tweet this out and then I'll tweet that you watched this whole episode and I'll respond because congrats to you.
And Matt will buy you Chipotle.
Yeah, Matt will buy you Chipotle.
He will not do that.
Matt will do it. He just
Matt
said
will do it.
Matt,
he just said it. So now Chipotle to anybody who listens to this whole podcast.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. Be safe.
See you guys.